Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us at Jack Straw. My name is Levi. I work here. I manage the artist residency programs, one of which is the Jack Straw Writers Program. Welcome to the 28th year of the Jack Straw Writers Program, curated by Nisi Shawl. It's been a pleasure and an honor to work with these folks. I hope you'll come back. We have 2 more readings next Friday and the following Friday. Some of our writers will be reading at the Folklife Festival. We also have some musicians performing at Folklife, and Folklife is just great, so people should go. And then this group will be getting out into the community in various ways over the coming months, and our podcast will start going out probably this summer, so please subscribe to the Sound Pages podcast. You can listen to the 2023 podcast while you wait for the new group. I would like to mention that tonight we're meeting on the lands of the Duwamish, Suquamish, and Muckleshoot nations and other Coast Salish peoples, past and present. And the staff, board, and artists of Jack Straw acknowledge that we're living, creating, working, and playing on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle and the Salish Sea. And we do honor them and the land itself with deep gratitude. And if you haven't visited nativeland.ca to see whose land you're on, I found it a really valuable resource, and it points you towards other resources for learning about that. Those of us joining us from elsewhere might be on, you can find out whose land you're on. But yeah, it's been a privilege to work with Nisi and these writers. I really appreciate the generosity and openness you've brought to this process of curating, and it's been great to get to know these folks and their work. And with that, I will hand it off to Nisi Shawl.
We're getting up. Okay, so hopefully I am being amplified here. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, cool. I am this year's Writers Program Curator. That happened to me last fall. I became that. My first assignment was to select the program's participants from over 100 applicants. Why did I wind up with the people that I wound up with? I was looking at, their ability. Like, these are all people that actually can write some good stuff. But also, like, sort of the urgency of the message. Like, this is something that we really need to get out for people to understand this stuff, for people to feel this stuff. And also, I was looking for people who were committed to the process of expressing themselves through writing, and writing not just in the terms of like these marks on the pages, but writing in terms of words getting out to people. I thought it was really important that people that I work with thought what they were doing was important. And then the next thing I had to do was select the order for the readings tonight and next Friday and the Friday after this. And so, of course, I had to pay attention to when people could come here, right? Because, like, not everybody can come all 3 of those nights. And then I also wanted to do some sort of thing where I had pieces in conversation with each other. You get to tell me if that came across. And I wanted to do something where everybody's pieces were in conversation with each other. But I wanted a balance. I didn't want just all poetry or all nonfiction or all speculative fiction. I wanted to have a bunch of different genres with people's stuff working together. So tonight and next Friday, the 10th, and Friday after that, the 17th, we're going to have poetry, then nonfiction, and then 2 other pieces tonight, and the last night they will be imaginative, fantastic genres. The middle one will be historical, which is also kind of a place where things don't actually exist, but we think about how they exist. Tonight we have 4 poets, 4 authors, Josh Griffin, Elyse Hauser, Allison Masangkay, yes? Masangkay. And McKenna Princing, whose name I know because we are previously acquainted. So I will do the brief introduction for our very first reader, Josh Griffin, who impressed me with his thoughts of poetry as an agent of change, and poetry as a moving force, an active, living thing that breathes into the movements and activism of all of us. And also, Josh, I believe, is more rooted in performance than in academics, and that, to me, is about getting real. It's not that there's no academic stuff going on there. Josh, you studied human rights at Emory University, yes?
International development and then focused in human rights.
Right, okay, so yeah. But that's not necessarily where we start off. So I'm going to get out of the way, and I'll come back when you're done.
Awesome. Thank you all for choosing to be here. You could have been anywhere on a Friday. Y'all chose to be here. How cool is that? And to piggyback off of the land acknowledgement, I also want to name that 86% from 1492 to 1900, the American indigenous population in America has been reduced by 96%. On top of that, 98% of the ancestral lands of which we live on was indigenous. So context to all of that. Each of us have a project that we came here for. My project is to heal. My mother died 6 years ago in Morocco. I was in Morocco. So these poems are more or less, or whatever you want to call it, I don't know if it's poetry or not, just letting her know where I'm at and healing. This is pain. A type of pain writer's block has blocked me from writing. Fear knows if I write what I feel, I'd have to feel the totality of your death. 6 years of waiting for a moment in time to know it's time to write. Grief lives in each word I read. Healing lives in each word I write. I didn't get to say goodbye. This poem is not your death at Northwest Hospital. Mom, you live in me forever. You see the world through my eyes. This poem is your son finishing his Peace Corps service 9 months after your death. Mom, I still hear your whisper. You need to finish what you started. This poem is your son feeling the embrace of Bini Ayet in the form of a hug. Mom, it's in my town's hug. I knew I made a difference. This poem is your ashes buried beneath the sand at Moclips. Mom, did you read the card I wrote you? Did you see the 3 sand dollars we buried with you? Do you watch the sunset each night as it slips behind the horizon? Are you there when I visit? If so, please give me a hug. I miss your embrace. This poem is your ashes sprinkled on the grass at the cliffs of Moore. Mom, I told you I would take you to Ireland. Did you hear the woman tell Dad and I what a perfect song for a perfect moment? The song we played while we let your ashes fly was Purple Rain. I still can see and hear the waves as they crash over the cliffs. Beneath the mist sat a man playing traditional Irish music. I know how much you liked Irish music. He was playing for you. Mom, this poem was me telling you I got into graduate school at Emory University. Mom, I moved to Atlanta. Dad and I drove across the country together. What an experience to see the vast beauty of Turtle Island. The drive at sunset from Missoula to Butte is magical. I remember how you told me that Dad and you drove across the country to Virginia from Seattle before I was born. It's like you knew your son would follow the same road decades later, that you had to go before me to show me you knew I'd be okay. You were right. The Crazy Horse Monument is amazing. This poem is a protest, a reminder that Black lives mattered in the summer of 2020. Mom, I am and was a community organizer. I protested for my life and for the next generations of minoritized lives because our lives matter, and the historical knee on our neck will no longer murder us. This poem is resistance, power to the people. Mom, I attended the March on Washington in August of 2020. I stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial as Martin Luther King III and Reverend Al Sharpton gave their remarks. Trayvon Martin's mother was 10 feet away. If I look closely, I can see thousands of people standing from the reflection pool to the Washington Monument. This poem is a love poem. Jamie taught me how to give love, and I abused her love. Mom, I met Jamie during graduate school. I think she was the one. I was the one who couldn't reciprocate her love. I was emotionally abusive, the worst version of myself. Jamie, if you're reading this, I hope you're happy and experiencing love in all the ways you deserve. Words will never be enough to express how sorry I am for how I showed up and treated you in our relationship. This poem is therapy and healing. Mom, I thank the gods. Mom, I thank the God for my therapist in mountains. My therapist has walked me through my healing journey and has helped me feel your death and not run from it. Mountains saved my life. Hiking is my internal peace, a space where I'm able to grieve, breathe in joy, and exhale happiness. My legs carry me to the summit of your passing. I sit with you atop mountains in utter awe and amazement at how beautiful it is to be alive. This poem is the poem I never wrote you while you were alive. Mom, you saw me take my first breath. And poetry is creation. You saw me grow for 28 years. You saw the poem I couldn't write. I am the poem. The person I am today at 34 is because of you. I am because of you. It is the greatest honor to be able to tell the world I'm the son of Carrie Jane Griffin. I love you, and I hope my life continues to make you proud. Last night, I saw you in my dreams. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. And now I can't wait to go to sleep. You make me happy when my eyes are gray. And this life is all a dream. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. And my real life will start when I go to sleep. Please don't take my sunshine away. My mama, mama, mama. Some of you've heard this one. Don't think to cry. Hopefully, maybe I will cry. It's cool. Toxic masculinity isn't great. Anyways, this is kind of an ode to hiking. Middle Fork. I'm standing at the Middle Fork in silence. Each word is an image, a postcard picture that has captured a moment in time. The image you see is of an alpine lake, gazing upon the vast evergreens who call this valley home. You and I are home. Shh. Please, be silent as you stand with me. Tell me, do you hear joy? It is the happiness born from your eyes, rolling down the curvature of your cheeks. These tears represent unexpected moments of beauty. Your cheeks tell a beautiful story. That life is the source of the river cascading from your eyes, coming to life when beauty stills your breath. Do not fight. Suffocate on this moment. Hold my hand. Look me in my eyes. Let us stand here and cry together. Let my tears show you the pain I hide. Listen closely. Do you hear the distant stream? The wind that dances through the pines? A bald eagle is suspended high in the sky. A bald eagle is not majestic. It is the head of the Ku Klux Klan and the black body of murdered ancestors. My ancestors' outstretched wings shout to me, "Are you what flying feels like?" Each teardrop tells the outstretched wings of the eagle, yes, I am what flying feels like, for I am free with nature. We are the seasons of fall, falling from evergreen limbs, having lived a summer and now resting during winter. Be forever born each season, and may we fall in love with life. May we speak less and stand with silence more. Take time to pause, and stop running in your mind. Standing or sitting atop the haystack at Mount Si, I look east and see the misty peaks I've climbed. Each trail has taught me to keep going. There are many more mountains to climb. Gratitude for my tree trunk legs. You carried my body up mountains, past lakes to the freest place, freedom. Gratitude for the eternal breath of my mother. Breathe life into trees. Thank you for the breath housed in my lungs. Gratitude for nature. You saved me from ending my existence. Capture images in your soul because it can never be lost in clouds. A shriveled leaf, be as silently still as the strange fruit that hangs from southern trees. A shriveled leaf rests beneath flakes of snow. Our eyes cannot see the life that lived within the leaf. The leaf is not dead. It lived and lives, returning to earth to be born with roots that grow past sight. The leaf fell from compass limbs that branch true north, due west, back east, deep south. The leaf, let us wrap our arms around the base of redwoods. Our hands hold our ancestors' hands. Our collective pulse sings stories of better days sung by lift every voice and sing songbirds perched high above. They sing, this is joy, this is happiness, this is joy, this is happiness. We are standing at the fork in the trail. We are standing in the vast wilderness of the Middle Fork. With each breath, we inhale gratitude for life. How blessed are we to be alive? Let us thank the universe for the stardust that is our bodies. Now we must continue our hike. assemble. My dad's here. Thank you. All right, you'll get it if you're looking at the book. Thank you, Dad. When Mom died, I didn't know how or if I could continue to live. Her death murdered part of me too. The morning we took her off life support, I was laying on the ground in the fetal position, hyperventilating with flash floods of tears flowing into the carpet. You were on the ground with me. As you hugged me, you kept telling me, everything is going to be all right. It's been 6 years since the morning of January 24th, 2018, and Dad, you were right. Slowly, we lived into everything being all right. We've both been through a lot of pain and suffering. I would not be alive without your love and support. For most of our life, our relationship was strained. I refused to be close to you because of things that happened in my youth, but Dad, I forgive you. I'm sorry it's taken me 3 decades to receive your love. All you ever wanted to do was love me. All I ever did was resist your love. Thank you for waiting these decades. Thank you for being my rock through the hardest times of my life. Since Mom died, you've been the best parent a son could ask for. I was scared. I didn't know if I could continue, but your love helped me to get me off the carpet, out of the fetal position, inspired me to continue to live. Dad, you're my best friend. I thank God for you. If I ever have kids, I hope I can be the father you've been to me. P.S. I love to hear your stories. Thank you for being there for Mom. I know she meant the world to you too. I have a strong feeling she's crying tears of joy right now. And proud of how our relationship has grown. Thank you from the floor of my heart. And thank you all for listening.
Gotta get back up here. Yeah, thank you. That was gorgeous. Thank you so much. So now we will hear from Elyse Hauser. Am I saying that right? Okay. So this is poetic nonfiction, I would say. It's a record of and an incitement to change also, as much as Josh's work is. We're thinking about global commons a lot in speculative fiction and in your nonfiction also, I believe. Elyse has worked as a journalist, which is a great way of finding out how to get the word out to everybody. And you also have experience teaching writing, so you're going to come up here and teach us something about the bottom of the ocean, maybe? Okay.
Yes, this is the essay from our new anthology, and I would consider it, in a way, a coming-of-age story, but it just happened last year. Searching for a more real sea. Life on Earth began in water. Hot plumes vented out from fissures deep within the ocean, churning into what we call primordial soup. And, long after our ancestors emerged from the seas, early humans stuck close. our first civilizations grew near rivers, we favored deltas, where fresh water met salt. Cities proliferate near coastlines to this day. It is true that I began life by water. I was born near Long Lake, Washington, which curls like a polychaete worm along the salty inlet of Puget Sound. My parents owned a stamp of land between Lake Washington and the smaller worm of Lake Sammamish, a place they filled with sheep and chickens. That stamp has long since been turned over to suburban homes as Seattle's tendrils grew. They must have taken me to the shores of Puget Sound when I was very small, though the memories are fragments, broken shells on the rocky beach of time. We could see and smell no seawater from that farm, which was bordered by trees and ferns, though these made a rushing sound in the wind, vaguely reminiscent of ocean. How, then, can I sense the scent of salt water in my earliest years? Why can I picture my young parents so easily, brunette and blue-jeaned, standing among stones and clamshells on the shore? This is the ocean, I recall thinking. I didn't realize that Puget Sound was a tiny tongue of salt water, a far cry from the deep vastness of true ocean, the place where life on Earth began. Tonight, I walk along the frigid edges of Bifjorden, the city fjord, in Bergen, Norway. I know better now than to conflate inlet with ocean, but I still find peace along the water. My colleague has told me that there may be auroras tonight. I can see no colors in the clear November sky, but as I walk, I can feel the ghost of another city hovering near me. Bergen reminds me best of old Seattle, whose outskirts I was born on. It's a proper city, but small, as Seattle once was. In my mind, I parallel the two cities' historic research universities, their respective fish markets. People are often brought to Bergen either by academia or by the maritime industries. This is how I recall the Seattle of my past, long before a sleek and shiny new startup city was layered on top of the grungy old one. It rains all the time in Bergen, except this rare, clear night. Nearby mountains hold the city center, like a bowl. I can hear evening revelry from downtown as I walk away from it, shouts and laughter bouncing from the mountainous edges. It feels like home. And, like Seattle, it lies along a fjord. I've just learned that Puget Sound, the saltwater inlet that shaped my youth, is technically a fjord. Long, narrow, glacier-carved. I came to Bergen seeking the deep sea, but found myself stymied by the familiar. I'm no longer that small child who looked out at the sound, land and houses visible on the other side, and thought, wow, the ocean. Still, on the rare occasions when I see the Pacific's full splendor, my thoughts feel superficial, even vapid. Japan's over there, I think vaguely, looking across an expanse I can't fathom, defining it by the places people live. That ocean is more than 5 times wider than the moon. More unknowable, too, in its way. I first loved the sea for its tangible coastal offerings. My parents fed me oysters early, introduced me to boats and fishing poles, let me collect sea glass and shells. These were the things I thought of when I thought ocean. As an adult, though, unfamiliar images of translucent and tentacled things began to land on my desk. As ocean exploration spiraled deeper, researchers returned with full-color documentation of the strangest life on Earth. My fascination grew. I cannot say which images of deep-sea life I encountered first. Was it a gape-mouthed anglerfish dangling a bioluminescent lure? The redness of a bloody belly comb jelly? Or perhaps the frilled shape of a polychaete worm? I thought I knew the sea. I was practically born there, after all. But these creatures confronted me with my lies. What I knew was only the tame edges of a docile fjord. The real ocean still eluded me. Bergen's research university is, intellectually speaking, oriented to the sea. Here, I would come to understand the ocean, I thought. The deep sea, the real sea. Norway was contemplating opening its deep seabed to mineral mining. No better time to learn what the marine researchers had found. I pictured myself on rocky shores and pitching ships, facing crashing waves in the thick Norwegian sweaters whalers wore 100 years ago. Though not a full ocean, the fierceness of the North Sea would suffice. I contacted the university. I applied for grants. I planned a trip. They better let me go down in a submersible, I told my friend, a Seattle fisherman turned marine engineer, on the phone when I arrived. It was half a joke. I knew researchers weren't foolhardy enough to cruise to the deep sea in October, as fall looks toward Norwegian winter. But I planned to spend time in the research centers, hanging out with the scientists, seeing their footage of strangeness in the deep, their specimens in little glass jars. I'd see and learn and return with stories to tell. You're practically Hunter S. Thompson now, my friend replied. Yet, as I walk along Bifjorden in November, the deep sea remains as impenetrable to me as ever. What I didn't understand from the maps is that Bergen is a fjord city, its inlet every bit as tame as Seattle's. I've faced no crashing North Sea waves, and I've been invited to no exclusive scientific meetings, seen no secret footage nor mysterious specimens, though plenty of scientists have met me in the ultra-modern Center for Investigative Journalism, where I work. I speak with the scientists in glass-walled meeting pods. The office humdoled around us, like we're in a submersible on its way to the depths. Mostly, they tell me how much they don't know. The deep sea is emerging in bits and pieces, even for those whose career is to look at it. Norway's seafloor may hold a vast cache of valuable minerals, or it may not. Life exists there, but is captured in mere glimpses. No one's yet sure exactly what lives on the volcanic formations beneath these churning northern waters. The sky offers me no auroras, and the fjord defies my desire for deep water secrets. At last I reach Bergen's edge, where sidewalk gives over to highway. I turn back toward the university apartment I call home. On the way, I pass great ships anchored in a temporary reprieve from their icy ocean habitats. Looking up at them gives me a thrill of fright, a romantic sense of awe. Their hovering bulks, painted in vibrant reds and oranges and greens, are poised for expeditions in steel gray seas, where they push past ice in search of oil. Civilizations have long depended on what the seas provided. We hunted and gathered shellfish and fish and whales. We churned limestone, made of fossilized shells into cement, drilled oil, the product of ancient plankton, to fuel our lives. I associated the coastline of my childhood with what it provided, shells and sea glass, more than with the intangible secrets held further out. The focus on gathering goods can eclipse the marvel of mystery. Now, desiring treasures more intangible, I want the deep sea to offer up its stories and surprises. I imagined private rooms where scientists would discuss names for newfound life, examine preserved jellyfish in jars, watch footage no one else had seen. But no such meetings seem to exist. Instead, the scientists offer me conversations and research papers and policy documents. From these, I've learned more about humans than about deep-sea animals. In December, Norway's government agrees to explore mining its deep seabed for minerals. It's a high-tech new type of resource extraction, dependent on robotics, reading like science fiction. Fishers, whalers, even oil divers intertwined their lives with the seas they took from. Deep-sea miners would separate themselves, directing machines to extract from unseen ecosystems. I pore over the documents and the press releases, speak with more scientists in my darkening office. These minerals have high value for their use in manufactured goods, luxuries, and technologies. Some scientists fear this deep-sea industrialization will drive extinctions, destroy ecosystems. Others welcome the chance to discover more life as we search for seabed resources. Our knowledge of the sea remains intertwined with our desire for commodities. Near the end of my research trip, a kind Italian postdoc agrees to share unpublished photos from the Center for Deep Sea Research, a tangible piece of the secrets I've been searching for. We meet in my office long after it's empty, the windows sea-dark with night. He clicks through the photos so I can choose which ones I want. There's a tumble of feathery shapes on the seafloor, a pillared hydrothermal vent encrusted with what looks like living snowflakes, something white and spider-like poised on what might be a sea sponge. I want that one, I say, and that one. Ooh, yes, that one too. I like that. I think you're going to say that about all of them, he says, laughing. I stare at the images now in my possession, long after he leaves. I know little more about the deep sea than when I first arrived. The animals in these pictures are still unknown to me. What they are, how they live, and much as I would love to go down in a submersible, I realize now there is no research expedition that will answer all my questions. Each one only shines a little more light on everything we don't know. And perhaps it's best not to know if that knowledge is driven by the hunt for resources. Until society is better willing to fund basic deep-sea research without profit motives, we may be better off letting the unknowns remain. Yet something in the deep still calls to me. Without knowing the names of what crawls on the hydrothermal vent, I know that these vents are where scientists believe life on Earth began. The mystery of myself, my strange and leggy form, my consciousness, my strong desire to be near saltwater, is encased in the mysteries I see here. As I leave Norway, I see the sea at last from the plane. The day's just started, the sun is bright and new upon it. I try to picture the full dimensions behind its mirrored surface, the depths those waters plummet to, but they're still vaster and stranger than my mind can grasp. Down there, I know, the earth keeps a bit of prehistoric madness alive. Primordial heat vents from fissures on the ocean's floor. The earth keeps its best secrets there, too. Elusive creatures adapted to a life more salt than sun. Though this life looks strange to us, somewhere down there is the story of how we came to be. Because I am human, I desire knowledge, meaning, the unveiling of secrets. But I am learning to look at the sea and want nothing from its depths except to remember where we all have come from. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. So, Allison's work, the method of its distribution is important to me, at least, as its content. It's the medium is truly the message. It's about being accessible, and it's about, well, the means of distribution is about being accessible and being meaningful to everybody that it comes in contact with. So I would say that this is reality as a commons, a global commons, influenced by a multitude of voices, which I think matches Allison's wide-ranging background. That includes a Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology and volunteering as a DJ and working for disability justice. I'm sure there's so much more I'm leaving out, but there's a lot there, and we get to hear some of it. So please come up and read for us.
Ooh, I'm not that tall. Okay. Yay. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Allison Masangkay. Thank you, Nisi, and also Josh and Elyse before me, and McKenna who come after me. Yeah, I'm really grateful to be here. Today, I'm going to be honest. I'm saying that today I'm not very excited about art lately, and this piece, I believe, helps me explain why. Content notes for descriptions of ableism, mentioning medical bills, fascism, capitalism, imperialism, colonialism, and anti-Blackness. This is called They Say Art is Healing. I tiled my studio apartment floor with unopened medical bills from the past year. It was somewhat aesthetically pleasing, but not more effective than the online bill pay option. That's why I'm applying for a grant to create a series of bed sheets sewn from naturally stained gauze and enveloped health insurance claims. It'll be shown in a gallery alongside an interactive art piece where strangers manually search for individual letters from ripped up mail inside bowls carved out of my own skull. And I will be so grateful to have created something so authentic and taken the advice of those who say that art is healing. That's why institutional validation matters so much to me as a disabled artist. I'm becoming exposed enough among audiences of people who are starting to notice my knuckles cracking, headaches unfolding, KN95 mask sealing my lower face, and all the blah, blah, blah I say about ableism, fascism, capitalism, imperialism, colonialism, and anti-Blackness, right before some compelling figurative language about chronic pain and disabilities. Someone out there is waiting to, no, dying to critique my diction and leave any other considerations about me far away, alone, and forcibly inspired by a pile of medical bills. Juggling paper. Thank you. Okay. Yes, okay, so this one, kind of like Nisi alluded to, I'm creating a zine, and I'm combining ideas of Philippine folklore, specifically with aswang. Aswang are generally shape-shifting evil, quote, creatures from Philippine folklore who often appear as everyday people during the day, and then they transform at night. And specifically, I'm focusing on manananggal, and that they are monstrous feminine presenting during the day, and then at night they grow wings, detach their legs from their upper body, eat organs, fetuses, and blood at night. Bless you. Let's see, don't want to leave too much, but okay, yeah, so that's what this is getting at. It's an excerpt from a larger kind of academic essay, but I'm not in school. Yeah, I don't know. I really like social theory, but it's very inaccessible, so kind of combating that. Okay, so yeah, content notes for mentions of killing, death, imperialism, colonization, racism, anti-Blackness, anti-transness, and ableism. Boop, boop. And this section is essentially like autoethnography and subsection, yeah, titled Physical and Metaphysical. I died several times while reading Freshwater by Kweke Mezi between 2018-2019. These deaths were metaphysical. I saw a rheumatologist for chronic pain and a somatic therapist for politicized body-mind practices. But who could I, disillusioned from my Catholic Christian upbringing, and then unaware of ancestral healing knowledge, meet about matters of my spirit? Ada, the protagonist of Amezi's semi-autobiographical novel, experiences metaphysical trauma as an Obanje, quote, an embodied spirit passing as human who transitions rapidly between birth and death. I believe Freshwater blessed me, helping me resist the Western medical science and terminology projected onto me. I began comprehending the chronic pain in my legs and the other flesh sensations as reminders to comprehend my body within a collective world rather than mistakes, failures, or lack. Amidst the pain, I sense love while applying my friend's mixtures of shea butter, mango butter, and essential oils to my legs and back each evening. My spirituality heightened when reading Filipino's account of Aswang in Maximo Ramos's The Aswang Complex, recalling Aswang and Momo, or Ghost, films I watched with my mom as a kid, and daydreaming of leg amputation and bionic limbs as both chronic pain treatment and gender-affirming care. The process of relearning ancestral knowledge does not necessarily indicate distance or disconnection from it. My friends and I remind ourselves not to undermine our ancestors' lessons written across the palimpsests that are our flesh, tendons, daydreams, rituals, and other containers that we know to honor beyond their physical presence or lack thereof. Expansive understandings of access, disability, and trauma should account for the ways in which colonialism damages our vessels of this embodied knowledge and how our families have engaged with this data for centuries. It is tragic and beautifully logical to me how some Aswang and witches commune, preserving their collective practices of magic and care while distanced from other neighborhood homes. The genius of Manananggal is the ability to die with each rotation of the earth. This way of living is not for everyone, but maybe it is perfect for me. Thank you. Okie dokie. Sorry, I kind of just have that tone. I know I'm saying serious things, but I kind of just have that tone. Okay.
No need to apologize.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is my last piece. And kind of how I touched at the top about being honest and not being maybe the most motivated about writing. I returned to Tony Kimbambara's work to get re-inspired, motivated. Maybe she's most known for her quotes. As a culture worker who belongs to an oppressed people, my job is to make revolution irresistible. I revisited her essay titled What It Is, I Think I'm Doing Anyhow, from 1979, talking about struggle alongside her community, talking about the idea of ongoing war, our contemporary society, and a core part of it being about truth. I just want to quote her quickly because it inspired me. I think it's important. She says in this essay, "There is a war going on and a transformation taking place. Truth is one of the issues of this war. I'm interested in usable truths, which means rising above my training, thinking better than I've been taught, developing a listening habit, making myself available to intelligence, engaging in demystification, and seeking out teachers at every turn." When I look back at the book reviews I've reviewed in the past years, the underlying standard always seems to be, this is this author. Here, genuinely love his or her community. Yeah, I think it's just important. In this current moment where more people are becoming aware, engaged in some forms, at the least, about genocides and resistance movements in Congo, Sudan, Palestine, alongside liberation in Haiti, Borican, or also known as Puerto Rico, and the Philippines, and so many places that are, so many lands and peoples that are colonized. We all have a role, and I think that's really important to engage with in these times. So this piece is just me reflecting and trying to move through that for my own communities. And honestly, some things might not make sense if you're not Filipino, but I believe in gatekeeping, especially with white people. Okay. Last thing. When I say insurgency is like insurrection, action against the state authority government, and counterinsurgency is government military operations against insurgency. So that's that. Okay, content notes, U.S. imperialism, martial law, counterinsurgency, white Christianity, anti-indigeneity, anti-blackness, death, and natural disasters. This is called Flood Stage of My Aromanticism. When my parents were my age, did they love me? When their days as 20-somethings ended, what was the texture of aches in their thighs? Did their sweat swallow sunlight with the same thickness of stress that comes from the labor of love? They tried to form romance under martial law, after all. There are too many people making creatively indented poetry, profitable seminars, and social media infographics about archipelagos for typhoons in the Philippines to rain unnoticed by most inhabitants of the first and second worlds. Ours is an intergenerational grief unsolved into a metaphysical cartography beyond the bounds of human rights violated. Where is the usable truth, the heart of the matter buried under a knowledge unbelonging to us? It's a shame, I've learned, that so much of it has been attainable within our reach under the marine layer, yet my flesh began the process of dying among people who took critique and crying as harm where I see them as love. And there is still so much left to cry about that I've yet to even know to learn and relearn. I don't think my people will truly know how to love without collective curiosity and creativity toward our ancestral sincerities, as in the things spoken, sung, written, signed, danced, chanted, herbalized, or baked between palimpsest layers of counterinsurgency, white Christianity, anti-indigeneity, and anti-Blackness. I died the last time I let myself cry in the presence of a friend, and I know that we are better for it.
Wait, more, no. You're done? Okay.
Oh yeah, keep it short. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you. And also now we can hear from McKenna Princing. So, okay, I guess that's good. All good, right? Yes. I've been impressed with McKenna's work a long, long time. What, 5 years maybe?
Oh gosh, it's pre-pandemic, so it's hard to remember.
Yeah, right. It's a different time, the before times. I was teaching at Hugo House, and McKenna was one of the students, and I was blown away by what I read of McKenna's. At this point, the work is primarily concerned with fairy tales, which are also a sort of a global commons, right? It's a reinforcement of this idea of reality as a commons and shared reality and shared imagination, which is what speculative fiction is all about. I cannot say anything about your academic record, or I know you have a day job with University of Washington, but I also know that you've had a few stories published, and I am so there for that. So please share what you can with us now.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. And thank you, Nisi, and all the other writing fellows and everyone at Jack Straw. I'm very grateful to be here. So as Nisi was saying, my project for Jack Straw is a collection of retold fairy tales set or inspired by the Pacific Northwest. So this one is based off of a really short story by the Brothers Grimm. Okay. The Boy and the Pennies. We watched the boy carry his can of pennies with him everywhere. Inside King Street Station, walking up and down Yesler, sitting in Occidental Square near the homeless encampments, leaning against the totem pole, standing in front of the Smith Tower and ogling its peak, and even down into the underground tour, the proprietor of which let him tag along with groups of tourists who spoke in hushed voices, as though the remains of the burned city could hear them. Shaken lightly, the pennies clinked softly off the side of the can and tapped each other, making a sound like small bells or wind chimes. The boy liked to make this noise, tipping the can side to side as he walked, never rattling the can loudly or making a noise that was jarring. The origin of the penny can remained mysterious. Many of us asked him where he'd gotten them, trying to strike up a conversation so we could ask questions about his safety or hunger. But he would just smile to himself or at us and continue to jiggle the can. Why does he just carry them around? He could buy something to eat, we observed. What can you buy these days with pennies, we scoffed. It's a wonder one of those homeless people hasn't stolen them, we remarked, feeling half guilty for our words. Do you think he's deaf, or can't speak, or doesn't speak English? We speculated as to the boy's silence. Because other than the music of the pennies, the boy made very little noise at all. It wasn't uncommon for us to be startled by his sudden presence when we turned around or changed direction while walking. We would go to open a door, cross a street, reply to a companion, and suddenly the boy would be there, in his quiet way, rustling his pennies. He never tried to startle us, we knew. He never yelled or screamed or bumped into us or tried to steal anything. It was simply uncanny how he could appear as though out of thin air. We began to get used to him, though, as is the way of the city. At first, we thought the boy was the son of a homeless woman who lived in a tent under the pergola. He was often seen with her, and when we walked past, we would remark to each other in whispers, once we were out of earshot, how awful, growing up without a roof over your head. Some of us would stop and tell the woman about a local shelter that accepted families, or offer her money so she could buy her son a hot meal. Once, an outsider threatened to call CPS, at which the woman laughed. Sometimes, as the evening drew on, we noticed the boy hanging around one of the local encampments, and we wondered if that was where he slept. Someone should just take him home with them, we would say. But of course, no one did. Once, the boy said, "Miss," very quietly, when he saw a woman drop her wallet, but she didn't hear him over the bustle, so when he reached for it as though to pick it up and hand it to her, she happened to notice him and thought he was trying to steal it. She called the police, and the boy looked like he was going to cry, his face all scrunched up, but no tears fell from his eyes. He didn't run away. When the police arrived, the homeless woman told them off. What business did they have coming after a little kid? They ignored her, but then others among us who had been walking home to our apartments and witnessed the incident said the boy had been trying to help return the wallet. And then when the police asked him if this was correct, he nodded. The accusing woman, who lived in a different part of the city, looked away in what we thought was embarrassment. Soon, we realized the boy was not her son, though she did seem to look out for him. But after a while, as more and more attempts were made to help the boy, and as he continued to end up back in the same place, on the street where we always saw him, it didn't take us locals long to realize the truth. The boy's clothes were older looking, trousers and a button-up shirt and a little cap. Sometimes he would show the curious among us a few of the pennies in his jar, and they were old, decades old. On rare occasions, when he responded to our questions, he gave vague answers like, "I've lived here a long time, and my parents are gone." None among us had ever touched or seen anyone else touch the boy. Not a hand on the shoulder, a high five, a handshake, nothing. And none of us had ever seen the boy pick anything else up other than his can of pennies. Sure, he sat on benches or on the ground. He walked up steps. He made some contact with the physical world, but no one had ever seen him with a cut or a pimple or sunburn. And no one had ever seen him eat or drink, even though many of us had left him food. It always was gone the next time we returned to the spot, but that didn't mean that someone else hadn't eaten it. All of these factors put together made us come to a startling realization. The boy must be a ghost. We verified these speculations by internet research, confirming the era of his clothing and learning typical ghost behavior that had been reported in other hauntings. We were almost more disturbed by an incorporeal boy than a boy living on the streets, but soon our unease morphed to fascination. We speculated about why the boy's ghost haunted our neighborhood. Maybe he stole the pennies shortly before he died, and he can't pass on until he gives them back, was one suggestion. Maybe he died in the Great Fire or from starvation, and he's here to remind us that society is still broken, was another. Maybe he's here to haunt us because we haven't fixed the homeless crisis yet, was another. Tourists began hoping to catch glimpses of the boy, of course. They would ask him more and more invasive questions, trying to learn about his past and why he lingered in this world, but the inquiries seemed to frustrate him, and he would grow tight-lipped, frowning, and then he would disappear when someone happened to turn away for a moment or get distracted by a car horn or a barking dog. Sometimes we would ask him those questions too, but his response was the same. One day, after speculation about the boy's ghostly origins had gone on for months, one of us, a woman, found him playing alone in a patch of grass and sat down next to him on the ground, a little ways away so as not to startle him. "Mind if I sit here?" she asked. He shook his head, smiling at her, jingling the pennies. Soon it became routine. She found him every other day on her lunch break, and they would sit together, mostly in silence. She offered him clementines, cheese sticks, candy bars, but he politely refused. He smiled at her, though, and stayed with her for the whole half hour. She told him stories about herself, how she had a dog she'd adopted from a local shelter, how she liked walking along the waterfront, and eventually, how her parents had died in a car crash a couple of years ago. The boy listened intently, but never shared much about himself. We thought the woman hoped to uncover the ghost boy's story, why he haunted our neighborhood, but if so, she and we were disappointed. This went on for months. When she wasn't with the boy or working, the woman told us about how she researched the paranormal, hoping to find clues to the ghost boy's origins. No guides to local haunts or accounts of supernatural activity knew any details about the boy, but that didn't deter her. She kept looking. Local tribes called Pioneer Square a passing over place, she told us, when we gathered in our homes or in the neighborhood's fancy bars, drinking overpriced wine and eating overpriced meals the size of appetizers. Zekalelich, she said, and we assumed she was mispronouncing the word. That's because it was an easy way to get from Elliott Bay to Lake Washington, but still, that name, passing over, maybe it means more than passing over on land. We speculated that maybe the boy was native, here to remind the descendants of colonizers how poorly his ancestors had been treated. We grew quiet after that. Then one day, later in the afternoon, as the first chill of autumn blew through the city trees and dusk was falling, the woman found the boy after work and told him, "I have something for you," setting a shiny new penny on the ground at arm's reach. The boy smiled at her, eyeing the penny. "Thank you," he said, and the woman's body jerked a little at the sound of his soft voice. "Why do you like pennies so much?" she asked him, but he just shrugged good-naturedly. They sat in silence, the woman watching the boy watching the penny. Then she shifted in her seat and asked the boy what had happened to him. He looked up at her, curious. "I just want to help you move on," she said, eyes watering. Without thinking, she reached out to him. He didn't shy away. Her fingertips touched his shoulder, and it was solid, real. We all gasped. The boy's arm slowly fell to his side, and the pennies in the jar rattled for a moment, louder than they'd ever been, before going silent. He stood up, leaned over, picked up the woman's offering in the grass, dropped the new penny in his can. He looked up at her, uncertainty in the corners of his eyes where it hadn't been before. Then he held out his other hand in front of her face. There was a cut along his index finger that looked several hours old, encrusted in dried blood, dotted with a few drops of fresh, bright red. Seeing it, the physical wound, the tangible flesh and blood, the woman's eyes widened. The boy asked her, in his quiet voice, "Do you have a bandage?" That's it.
Thanks, everybody. What a wonderful bunch of reading. Thank you, Nisi, for assembling this wonderful group. Thank you, McKenna and Allison and Josh and Elyse and all of the, please come back the next 2 evenings. You've all got the books with you, so you can, prepare ahead of time or be surprised. I do want to quickly thank our funders. I was so excited to introduce Nisi, I forgot to do that earlier. The organizations that help make this program and our other artist residencies happen include the City of Seattle Office of Arts and Culture, For Culture, Washington State Arts Commission, National Endowment for the Arts, Arts Fund, Rainier Foundation, and individual contributors. And I have to do the obligatory. Next week is Give Big. For those of you who exist on the internet and have any connection with nonprofit organizations, you probably already know that. Jack Straw is registered. If you want to throw a few bucks our way, we would certainly appreciate it. But your being here tonight means the world. Oh, and if you're watching online, there should be a link to purchase the anthology at Open Books. It's also for sale. If you just walk down into their wonderful little shop in Pioneer Square, you can pick up the anthology there. But yeah, click on that link, and I think it's probably somewhere on our website too, or you can just go to the Open Books website. I've said too many words. Thank you again, and we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.